Hey League, back for the Week 13 performance reviews here. As you guys know, this is the last week of the regular season, so kind of had a good understanding of what teams were already in the playoffs, and there's a couple spots open, so we'll cover things here. Obviously, we'll start with my matchup. You guys may wonder why my matchup's first. Obviously, when you go to the scoreboard, your team is always the first matchup to show, so that's why I always cover my game first. Not that I'm biased or anything. All right, but my matchup versus Dakota, as you guys know, this matchup decided one of us, the winner, was going to get into the playoffs. As you guys know, my team really decided to show up this week, so I put smackdown on Dakota, knocked him out of contention for the playoffs, and put myself into the playoffs. My big performers were Stafford with 24. I had Spencer Ware with 19, Jordy Nelson with 22, Golden Tate with 25. Diggs had 10, Cameron Brate with 18, and not much else on my lineup. Not a ton on the bench. Did have Devontae Booker on the bench with 10 points, but nothing else going on there. Looking at Dakota's team, Matt Ryan had 16, Carlos Hyde with 10, LeGarrette Blount with 15, and everybody else was in single digits. Everybody on his bench was either injured or suspended, except Tyrod Taylor, who he did play the correct quarterback there. Next matchup we have here is Philip versus David. This was the closest matchup of the week, and if I had to guess, I didn't research, but I would guess the closest matchup of the entire season. Philip won this matchup 114.4 to 114. In this matchup, Philip had Aaron Rodgers get 16, Latavius Murray with 24, Jeremy Hill with 12, Julio with 15, Thomas Rawls with a huge gain, 24 points, although he did leave with an injury. He did have Terrence West on the bench, who put up 20 points, but nothing else too crazy there. It did have Marquise Wilson in his lineup, and who got him a 0. I guess wasn't very targeted by Matt Barkley in that game as they blew out the 49ers, so that could have something to do with it there. Looking at David's team, he had Carson Palmer with 24, Doug Martin with 13, Jay Ajayi with 12, Beckham with 15, Theo Riddick with 11, Patriots defense with 14, kicker got him 16, had Eli on the bench with 12, but he played the correct quarterback there. Could have, if he plays Chris Hogan over, one of the receivers in his lineup, he would have won there, or Tyler Lockett. I can't really blame him. Obviously you're going to go with Robinson and Beckham, and Watkins has more upside than Lockett and Hogan. So, obviously after the fact we can say, oh yeah, you play this guy, you would have won, but would you really have played that guy, beforehand? I think he made the right play decision. It just didn't work out in his favor. He also had Frank Gore on the bench, who had 8 points, but all the running backs he played had more than that. The only decision he could have made is he could have played a fucking tight end, because the guy was on bye week, which would have helped him in his favor. Wouldn't have, in the long run it helps, because it would have given Philip a loss, which would have made, change playoff seeding there. Wouldn't have changed anything for David, as his team would not have made it even with the win. Yeah. Next matchup we have here is we have Garrett versus Ray. Garrett won this matchup here 121 to 108. If we look at Garrett's team, he has Derek Carr 21, Cooper with 13, Landry with 14, Garcon with 11, Kelsey had 18, Broncos defense with 16, and the kicker with 17. Had Newton on the bench with 12, didn't matter, played the right kicker. Had Vinatieri on the bench with 13. He was still able to get the victory even with one of his big studs, DeMarco Murray, on the bench on bye week. If we look at Ray's team, he had Drew Brees with 7, Jordan Howard with 30, one of the bigger players for the week, had 3 touchdowns. Fitz had 13, Jimmy Graham with 15, Ravens defense 14, Matt Bryant with 12. He did get a goose egg out of Marvin Jones, and Hightower got him basically a point and a half. Brady got 15 on the bench. Would have been more points than Brees, but I mean, like I said, we only know that afterwards. I would have played Brees myself. Everybody thought that was going to be a huge scoring game between the Saints and the Lions, and it just didn't turn out that way. Just very tough season for Ray. But I'm sure he'll be able to make it better next year and probably go from struggling to beating everybody really bad. All right, the next matchup we have here is we have George versus Michael. George got the victory here, 110-92. On George's team, he had Dak Prescott with 11, Yeldon had 10, McKinnon with 14, DeAndre Hopkins with 13, Baldwin with 10, LaFell with 18, Pitto with 24. Not a ton to speak of on the bench, but he did have Ginn on the bench with 17 points there. If you look at Michael's team, obviously he got killed by playing Kaepernick, who played like complete garbage. I played him in daily fantasy and was super pissed about it. Got him only 2 points. Did have Elliott with 19, LaShawn McCoy 23, Jamison Crowder with 12, Kenny Britt with 14. Panthers got him negative 4 points. Had Andrew Luck on the bench with 30 points. That would have made a huge difference in his day and would have, let's see, 110-92. Yeah, that would have put him right up there with George playing Andrew Luck. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and do the math on the video, but it would have been real close. Had Gillislee on the bench with 17. McCoy and Gillislee both performed very well in that game. Next up, we have Shane versus Ray Sr. Shane got the win here. It was 147-97. So a big victory there. Looking at Shane's team, he had Alex Smith 13, David Johnson with 34, Le'Veon Bell 19, Hilton 19, Moncrief 11, Rashad Jennings with 14, Matt Prater had 18, and absolutely nothing going on his bench with a couple players out, or I'm assuming they were out. Bennett didn't do anything, nothing going on there. Looking at Ray Sr.'s team, Roethlisberger had 18, Devontae Freeman with 25, Des Bryant with 16, Tyrell Williams with 12. Got 0 points out of the Eagles defense there, which definitely didn't help him out there. Not a ton going on the bench. Did have Steve Smith on the bench with 8. Could have got him a few more points, putting him in for a couple different receivers there, but nothing too crazy there. Next up, we have Dalton versus Joseph. Dalton got the victory here, 121-103. Because Dalton won the matchup, he got the last seed in the playoffs. If he would have lost, then it would have gone to a bunch of tiebreakers, and we all know that a tiebreaker situation is a little crazy, so it's best to just go ahead and win and get in and not worry about it. He had Kirk Cousins with 17, Melvin Gordon with 22, Antonio Brown 14, Tyreek Hill 10, Edelman 14, 11 out of the Steelers defense, 14 out of the kicker. Couple double-digit scores on his bench. Dontrell Inman had 12. Could have got a few more points playing him. Played the right quarterback this week. Looking at Joseph's team, Russell Wilson had 16. Crabtree had 17. Brandon Cooks with 11. Zach Ertz with 18. Kenneth Dixon with 10. Justin Tucker with 10. Few double-digit scores on the bench for him. Sterling Shepard with 10. Kobe Fleener with 11. Darren Sproles with 14. I am the last matchup it shows on here. So that covers all the matchups we have here. Nothing crazy happened on waivers this week. I believe I bid $15 for the Darius Green and was able to get him. So as you guys know, what the playoff standings currently, I believe Garrett and Ray Sr. Each have a bye. Garrett is the number 1 seed. Now, some of you guys, I'm sure, read the messages going back and forth. The way it worked out is because there was a three-way tie for first and the teams did not play each other equally, ESPN could not use the head-to-head tiebreaker to decide the situation there. Now, we know, given the way it worked, we could have gone in and made a different change, but we leave the rules the way they are because we're in the middle of the season. There's no point in changing it, but like I said, we can revisit things this off season so we don't experience the same situation next year. So because they were all tied, because it went to head-to-head and it's three teams there and they didn't play each other equal amount of times, ESPN automatically decides the seeding based on points scored. So because they went to that tiebreaker, that puts Garrett in the number 1 seed because his team, by standards, scored the most. Obviously should be the best team. Then it whittles down to 2 teams, which was Ray Sr. and Phillip. Because it's down to 2 teams at that point, it can go to our first tiebreaker, which is head-to-head, which puts Ray Sr. in the number 2 seed. So Garrett and Ray Sr. will be on bye week this week. And that means that the playoff matchups are the 3 seed Phillip versus the 6 seed Dalton. Currently, it looks like Dalton is favored to win by 3 points. I don't know if either one of them has set their lineup or made any changes or anything of that nature. I'm just going off what I see currently. And then the 4-5 matchup will be Michael, who is the 4 seed, versus myself, as I'm the 5 seed. And currently, it looks like I'm projected to win by 6 points in that matchup. Like I said, I don't know if he set his lineup. I might make some changes. I'm not sure. For those of you who did not make the playoffs or the winners bracket playoffs, we still have the constellation playoffs. And the way it works in our league, for those of you who, some of you are aware, some of you aren't aware, the winner of the constellation bracket will receive the number 1 pick in the draft next year. So you want to continue to set your lineup. You want to continue to participate because depending on where you finish in the constellation bracket dictates where you're going to draft in the draft next year. For those in the winners bracket, if you lose, obviously you're going to have a higher up draft pick next year. If you win it all, you will be the last pick. As we know, Ray Sr. was the winner from last year. He was the last pick in the draft, and he's the number 2 seed in the playoffs. So it doesn't matter really where you pick, you can still succeed and move on. Best of luck to everybody. Obviously I'm rooting for myself, so not good luck to Michael, good luck to everybody else. Let's have a good playoffs. Our playoffs are 1 week matchups, so after this week we'll be whittled down to 4 teams battling for the title and a share of the money pot. See you guys later.